Hi, it's me, Miranda, again, and today we are going to be going over the major muscles of the torso, abdomen, chestal area, whatever you would like to call it, just that big area that's your torso. So, like I mentioned in my previous video, the muscles of the head and neck are special or unique because they connect generally to skin or other muscles. But in the rest of your body, or they insert into skin or other muscles. But in the rest of your body, they insert into bone. So you have to remember that whenever you're learning the origin and insertion points. So let's just jump right in. Just like I did before, I'm just going to point out muscles and talk about them for a second, what they do, possibly an origin or insertion point here or there, and then move on to the next. So we will start out with the sternocleidomastoid, which is right here. And its primary job is to flex the neck both laterally and anteriorly, as well as to rotate the head contralaterally to the side of contraction. So next we will look at the deltoid, which is on your arm in this area. And the deltoid, it is the prime mover of arm adduction. That's whenever it's acting as a whole. But whenever it is acting with only specific fibers, it can act as a synergist in flexion, extension, and rotation of the arm. So you kind of have to pay attention to how much of it is working. So next we have the pectoralis major, which is in this area, and it is on both sides, just as the deltoid is. And the pectoralis major, it is the prime mover of arm flexion. It adducts and medially rotates the arm. Next, we will look at the serratus anterior, which is this muscle right here. And its job is to protract and hold scapula against the chest wall. It rotates the scapula. So it's working with your shoulder. So next, what we're going to look at is layers of the abdominal wall, like the layers of the muscles in the abdominal wall. So you have 3 layers and they're cut into 3 separate spots as I'm marking here. So the interior one, the most deep layer is the transverse abdominis, and its job is to compress the abdominal contents. Next, you have the internal oblique, which is the next layer. It's the middle layer, and its job is to compress the abdominal wall. Next, you have the external oblique, which is the most superficial layer, and its job is to compress the abdominal wall. So then we flip on over to these muscles here, and that is the rectus abdominis. And its job is to flex and rotate the vertebral column. So you have to remember that this is a deep layer as well. It's not the top. So all of these muscles work together to perform sit-ups and different things that utilize your core to work. So next we'll go over a few of the insertion points here and there just because I feel like they're important. Okay, so the sternocleidomastoid, let me erase this so that we can restart with our blue. The sternocleidomastoid, which if you recall is up here, if my pen will write, there it is. It's right here. Its origin is the manubrium of the sternum, a medial portion of the clavicle. So right in here, this is the that is the origin. And then it wraps all the way up into here and goes back here to the mastoid process of the temporal bone and the superior nuchal line of the occipital bone. So it's a rather long muscle, And because it is a skeletal muscle, you have to remember that it has those long fibers that go all the way up and down the muscle. So the next one that I wanted to look at was the deltoid. So its origin is the lateral third of the clavicle, the acromion, and the spine of the scapula. So it's up in here. And you can see that within this picture. You can see the different areas that it attaches. So next you have your insertion point, which is the deltoid tuberosity of the humerus. So that's kind of easy to remember because it's the deltoid tuberosity. Next, I kind of want to look at, Next, I want to look at the pectoralis major, and that's this one up in here. Well, and it's working. So its origin is the clavicle, the sternum, the cartilage of ribs 1 through 6 or 7, and the aponeurosis of external oblique muscle. So if you notice, all of these have different origin and insertion points. So there's a lot of it. So whenever you're studying, you have to make sure that you are going over the origins for each one. You're going over the insertions and you're going over the action and even where it is on the body. So once again, it's a lot to memorize. You just have to repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. I think I might have mentioned this in my last video. The way that I learned it was I took these photographs and I actually printed them out and put them in clear sheet protectors or page protectors. And I would write the muscle and rewrite it. So that's how I know where the sternocleidomastoid is, and the deltoid, and the serratus anterior, and the internal oblique, and the external oblique. All of these things I learned because I repeated and repeated and repeated and repeated. Now, the origin insertions were really hard for me to learn, but once again, I just used flashcards and I wrote them. So I would write the serratus anterior. Its origin is the lateral aspect of ribs 1 through 8 or 9. And all of these things are just so important to know and understand whenever you go into medical school or nursing school or whatever it is that you're going into, because it's your body. You have to understand the basics before you can understand everything about it. So that's all I really wanted to talk about with this video. Please come back for more. I'll be posting a few more, I hope. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you got everything that you possibly could get from it. Thanks.